Hi, my name is Alex. I'm going to transition from female to male, and I'm going to document that progression. So this is my first video, day one of that, my intro video. So I took my first shot of testosterone about 3 days ago. That would be July 18th, 2020. And I'm also going to change my lifestyle a little bit. I'm going to work out pretty hard and eat clean and try and take care of this new body I'm trying to build. I'm going to document that as well. So for intro video, a little bit about me. I'm an animal control officer for the county of San Miguel in New Mexico. But I think I want to start from when I was a little kid. I grew up in a small town called Las Vegas, New Mexico. And when I was a little kid, growing up in a small town that's predominantly Hispanic, I wouldn't say it was a conservative town. Being in New Mexico and everything is a liberal state, but it was very traditional, I guess you would say, especially with a very Hispanic influence on it. But when I was a little kid, very small child, I thought I was a boy. I really thought I was a little boy. And my parents didn't really do a whole lot to discourage that. They just kind of let me do what I wanted to do. I played football with the boys. I played cars with the boys. I would chase girls and pull their hair with all the other little boys. And I was pretty convinced I was a little boy when I was a little kid. And when other people, friends, family, just the general population would try and tell me otherwise, like, no, you're a little girl, I would get very upset, and I just knew they were wrong. And that's how I lived my early childhood, pretty much convinced that I was a boy and everybody who told me different was wrong. And then puberty hit, when is that, like 10, 11, 12 years old, something like that. And when all my friends that were boys were, getting a little peach fuzz and starting to fill out in their muscles a little bit, my body was, sprouting a little bosom and getting a little hippie, and I did not expect that. I was devastated, absolutely devastated that, I was turning into a woman rather than a man like I was supposed to be doing with my other friends. And I guess it was then that it hit me. It's like, well, yeah, I guess I really am, a girl, a woman, and I'm just gonna have to resign myself to that. And so that's how I lived my early preteen years, I guess, just reluctantly turning into a teenage girl. Of course, along with puberty came, romantic feelings, and I would have these crushes on girls. At the time, I didn't know what those feelings were. I just knew that you get butterflies in your tummy around certain girls, and you want to be with them and all the time and think about them all the time. And now you gotta understand, being in a small town way back then in the early 80s, there was no internet or point of reference for homosexuality or things that weren't abnormal, I guess, especially in a small town like that. So I didn't see anybody remotely like me, a girl that thought she was a boy and was having feelings for these girls. It was a completely foreign concept, and I didn't understand it at all. But I did understand that it was different and weird, and I probably shouldn't tell anybody about it. And so for a long time, that's how I lived my teenage years, trying to be a normal girl and hiding my feelings and not expressing it to anybody or anything, and not even understanding it myself. When I was 15, I left New Mexico to go to school in Virginia. When I got to Virginia, I got into a group of friends. I was a little bit older, and I hear them talking about, the gay boys this, gay boys that. Didn't really know what they were talking about until it was explained to me one time that what a gay man is a man a boy or a man who has romantic sexual feelings for another man, another boy. And I was like, hey, that's kind of sounds like what's going on with me, but not exactly. And I was trying to piece this together. It's like, well, I used to think I was a boy. Maybe I really am a boy, but I have this female body and I have feelings for these girls, and maybe some way. It was all very confusing. Also at that time, AIDS was hitting really hard, and not a whole lot of information was coming out about that, except that it affected gay men. And so I would ask, my parents and teachers and things like that, what is this AIDS thing? And they're like, oh, it's a disease that kills gay men, but you don't have to worry about that. And here I am thinking I'm some kind of gay man, so maybe I do need to worry about this AIDS disease killing me. So that's how I lived my later teen years, very confused, not only about my sexuality, but my gender, and if this AIDS epidemic could kill me. I didn't know how it was, passed on or anything like that. And so here comes my coming out story. I was about 17 years old, and I'm cruising around with my friends around town, and we drive by a bar, and they're all snickering and pointing and saying, oh, that's the gay bar, don't go there. And I perk up, I'm like, oh, really? Gay bar? Yeah, and I was like, what exactly is a gay bar? They said, well, where all the gay men go to meet other gay men. And I thought, well, that is fantastic. I can actually go somewhere and meet other people like me, because again, I thought I was a gay man at the time in some strange form. At that time, you could be 18 to go to bars, and I was almost 18. So I saved up my money, and the day I turned 18, I was all set to go to this gay bar to meet another gay man and ask him all my questions about, what it is to be a gay man and what's going on with me, how does this work, what do we do? And I go to that bar planning to, meet some man and buy him drinks and just have him explain, what is going on here. And when I got to that bar, there were men there, but there were also a lot of women there. And I was like, hey, what are all these women doing here? I thought this was a gay man's bar. And the more I watched and looked, these women were dancing with each other, and I saw a couple kiss each other, and it just dawned on me, just like a ton of bricks. Oh, women can be gay too? Oh, this is awesome. Let's do that. So that's how I lived my young adult life. Hardcore lesbian. I was like, jumped right in with both feet into the gay community, fought for gay rights. I worked in gay bars, and just was 100% gay into that. And I was pretty happy. It was a lot of fun. I had a really good time. I was able to express my feelings with other women, and it was glorious. It was marvelous. So, I get through school and start a career. Now I'm in my 30s. I moved to Austin, Texas. My career was going really well as a game designer. And in Austin, Texas, being a big city, and if you know anything about Austin, Texas, it's a very diverse community. It's very liberal. It's very eclectic. And I was really able to learn a whole lot there as far as going beyond the gay community. I joined a football team, a women's football team, because I like to play football and whatnot. And on that team, there was a woman who was very, very muscular and very strong. And one day I asked her, I was like, how? You must work out constantly. Just how are you getting so buff and tough? And hey, I was no, scrawny chicken myself. I worked out constantly, but could never get to her point. And she says, well, I'm transitioning. And I was like, well, what is that? And she said, well, I'm on testosterone because I'm going to transition into a male. And I was like, what? That's a thing? Someone can do that? What? And then it took me back to when I was a kid thinking I was a boy and always wanted to be a boy. And I was like, wow, I can actually do this. So I investigated very heavily and into the transition process and what you need to do for that, and if it was for me, if it was something I wanted to do. And at that time, you had to go through like a counseling process. You had to talk to a psychiatrist or a counselor of some sort that would sign off on your mental stability, saying it was okay for you to go and transition. And so I started that process. I started to talk to counselors, but every counselor I talked to kept saying I was bipolar, and they wanted and not to go explore this transition thing anymore, but to handle my mental instability first. And that just pissed me off. I didn't, I was like, no way, they don't understand. And I just kind of that held me back, and I didn't want to do that. Late 30s, early 40s, I became really depressed and had kind of a mental breakdown. It turns out that whole bipolar thing, there was something to it after all. And I had a really, really hard time, I guess you could call it a crisis or a traumatic breakdown or something like that. And for a few years I was severely depressed, and my marriage didn't survive this depression, neither did my career. Everything just kind of fell apart. But I did seek medical help and went through a whole lot of counseling and got that pretty much fixed. Unfortunately, I lost my job, I lost my career, I lost my wife, my family, and I didn't know what else to do. So I came back to New Mexico, and I had to Las Vegas, New Mexico, where I grew up, and I had enough money to just kind of like chill out for a couple of years and do nothing. So I just took that time to kind of recover and figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And that went well. You know, I found a new career in animal services, which I'm enjoying very much. I got stabilized with, my depression and mental things like that. I have a brand new love in my life who's very supportive on every front. Things are going really well, and I'm really liking the direction my life is taking. And again, I thought about, transitioning. I was like, well, if I'm going to take my life in a whole brand new direction, why not take it to a direction I really wanted to go? And I thought about the transitioning again. And so I got online, I started looking for counselors and psychiatrists in my area that could, give me the sign off on the bill of health or whatever, that you can go ahead and do this. And it turns out, well, they don't do that anymore. I mean, this is a decade later down the road, and maybe even 15 years later down the road. They don't do that anymore. They go ahead and trust the person that, hey, if you want to transition, you can do it. And I found a clinic that was willing to work with me right then and there. After the initial consultation, they were like, yeah, let's get you started on T. And it happened so fast, but it felt so right that it was like the universe was just on me, telling me, yeah, now's the time to do it. This is the thing to do. So I'm going for it. And I am now 2 months shy of my 48th birthday, which might be a little old to start transitioning, but not too old. In fact, from everything I've read, you're never too old to do it. I think my only concern was, am I healthy to do it, enough to do it? Am I going to have heart problems or cholesterol problems and things like this? So no, my doctor, put me through the tests, physical tests. I'm healthy enough to do it. They're not worried about anything. I think the only thing I'm going to miss out on is being a young man. I'm going to go straight from being a middle-aged woman into a middle-aged man. But I don't care. I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, I'm going to start working out a lot, take care of my body, my new body, and be the best man that I can be. So that's me in a nutshell. Alex.